The video you're about to watch is straight out of my online plumbing course. It's a class that I taught about the basics of venting in plumbing and why we need it and some theory behind how it works. The whole course is about 16 hours of content just like this, and it's tailored for someone who is getting started in their plumbing career. In the description of this video, there's a link that takes you to a free introductory course and tells you how you can get $50 off. I hope you enjoy this class. Okay, in the last couple of sections, we talked pretty extensively about a water distribution system and a sanitary drainage system. Another main component of plumbing in general is the venting system. Now, I've had a lot of guys over the years that I have been teaching plumbing to get a little hung up on understanding the concept of venting. And people would say to me, like, I get the water, I get where it comes from the city, like we just talked about. It's under pressure, so it goes in the house, and then when I turn a faucet on, it goes down the drain, and by gravity it finds its way back out. The venting part of it, I just don't understand. So I've heard quite a few people say that and have a little bit of a problem understanding conceptually what the venting part of a plumbing system is. So to get us off on the right foot, I wanted to make this video in particularly to give us some visuals of understanding the venting concept of plumbing and why it's so important. So if you remember, probably when you were a kid, you would be messing around a little bit with your drink and you'd have a straw. And so I have a full glass of water right here. You'd be kind of playing around and you put your finger over the straw and you lift it up and you realize, wait a minute, the water's not coming out until I take my finger off of the top of the straw. And you'd kind of play around with it and really didn't think anything of it. Well, now that you're in plumbing, we have to think a lot of it, because if you think about it, water is not going to come out of that straw until I do what? I give it some air. So there is the basic way to look at venting and plumbing and how it's important. So when you go to flush a toilet, turn on a shower and watch the water go down, you got to think that that water would not go anywhere until it gets some air. So that's one of the easiest visuals I can show you to help you out of the gate to understand why venting is important in plumbing. All right, so now taking that concept a little bit farther, let's take this bowl and this bottle of water right here, and I just turn it over completely upside down. Let's see what happens. You see all that gurgling? That is the disruption caused by air trying to take the place of the water in the bottles to let the water come out. They're just trading places. But what happens is, if it's done in a manner where it's not fluid, you can see all of that gurgling that's happening when it's not a fluid transfer of air and water. Picture that in a plumbing system. If something is flushing by and we're trying to protect that all-important P-trap, and there's gurgling and some kind of a siphon that's happening, you could potentially suck that P-trap dry. So we always have to make sure in the way we're venting our pipes that there is a smooth transition of air and water. So if you look at it this way, if I turn this over and pour it slowly, obviously it's going to come out evenly because there's a transfer of the air on top of the pipe. Actually, once we get into talking a little bit more plumbing code, that is, in a sense, a wet vent right there where the air and the water are making a smooth transfer in the pipe. So we'll talk about that more when we get down to more talking about code. But again, I wanted you to see that visual too. There has to be a smooth transition between the water and air to always protect that P-trap. Now, let's take those visuals that we just did right here. Let's go to the whiteboard. There's a couple more things I want to show you. Okay, so let's take some of the concepts we just talked about and let's try to get a visual on it. So again, I'm not much of a drawer, but let's just say we've got a house. And on the ground floor of this house, let's put a bathroom. In that bathroom, let's put toilet. Okay? And let's just say that the city sewer line is out here. Now, when we get into talking about rough ends of a toilet, I'll explain a lot more to you about it, but just for this visual, the drain line for a toilet comes out through the floor. So we'll say that we got a drain line here. We're going to come down and we're going to aim it toward the city sewer, and with gravity, so it goes out. Again, this is just a very generic explanation. I'm just trying to get it so we can see actually these concepts here of how it's actually going to work with a toilet. So what's going to happen right now when we go in and we flush that toilet? Not much, but actually a lot's going to happen in regards to what we just talked about. So water is going to come out of the tank into the bowl. There is air in this pipe right here. So what's going to happen is the water in that bowl is going to start fighting with the air to try to trade places with it. And so the water is going to come down and it's going to gurgle. It's going to be carrying on just like that bottle did when I turned it over on top of the bowl. So what that has the potential of doing as the water goes down is taking all the water out of the P-trap because it needs air so bad. And in the next segment, when we're talking about atmospheric pressure, we'll get into that a little bit more. So the fix for this right now, to get this toilet enough air so where it has a smooth transfer, just like I said, how rough it was with the bottle, what we're going to do in a sense in venting and plumbing is we're going to come right here and we're going to put a straw on it, just like we talked about over there. And that takes the finger off of the straw and that gets air so the water can actually move. I'll almost guarantee you if you go outside of whatever building you're in and look around on the roofs of other buildings, you'll see pipes coming through the roofs. Just picture that as straws coming through, giving air for the pipes so they can be protected and keep those P-traps full of water. Okay, so I just actually stepped out of the garage here at, we'll call it Rising Tide Studios. And this is the little apartment complex right across the street from my house. And you can see all those lines coming out of the roof. Those are vent lines. Just picture it again for just as to help with the concept. Just straws going through the roof, letting air in to let the water go out freely through the plumbing system. Okay, so let's go back to our example. When we were doing the visuals over there, I showed you one of putting the water upside down into the bowl and how it kind of gurgled and carried on before it went out of the pipe. It wasn't going very smoothly. Again, it wasn't the smooth transition of air and water. So let's go back to our house here. And let's just say on the second floor, right here, we have another toilet. Okay? And since we have this line going up through our straw, because of course we're going to start calling them vents, but we have this line going up through here. So what would happen if I take this toilet here and tie it right into that line? So let's think about that for a second. So this toilet's flushing, it's getting its air, and it's going out to the street, no problem. But in a sense, what's happening here, when I flush this toilet, since there's right here, there's water going down through this pipe, and there's not really a smooth transition of air. Picture this as just the bottle turning over into the bowl, and then there's that gurgling and that carrying on. So when that's happening and it's creating a little bit of a vacuum, when it gets down here, it has the potential to suck the trap in that toilet dry. And again, that is what we're really trying to keep from happening, so the sewer gas from here doesn't come inside of the house. So again, when we get into more of plumbing code and venting, what we need to do is make sure that this toilet is vented separately than this toilet and keeping them separate to where that transition, again, is smooth. So in a sense, in the plumbing world, what we would do for this, one example of many, would be to instead of tying this into that vent line going through the roof, we would have to create another drain line, come down, and tie it into the sewer line leaving the house. And then this one would have to come up, put its straw or vent on that, and you can even tie this together and go through the roof one time. But that way, this one, this toilet is vented, and this toilet is individually vented. So when this toilet flushes right here and that water's coming down and it hits right here, instead of sucking this toilet dry or messing with the trap in this toilet, it's going to receive its air from this one right here where it goes up through the roof also. So both of those fixtures are, in a sense, vented and protected. So I just wanted to throw a couple of simple visuals out there to when we get into more plumbing code and talking about venting, it's not necessarily as intimidating. You have a pretty decent concept of what ultimately we're trying to do.